everybody, and welcome back to my short series, starting as a first year teacher, things I wish I knew. So this is part 2, and the topic is administration and filing, the dreaded admin that we speak about as teachers. So just a little recap on what the videos are about. It's a short 3-part series aimed at helping final year student teachers as they enter the world of full-time teaching for the first time. I will be giving tips from my experience of things that I wish I knew when I started last year. And I will cover a variety of different topics based on my personal experience, which is specific to my school, but hopefully will be able to help you at whatever school you start at. So please take away any tips that you can from my experience. So the first thing I will be discussing today is my files. Now, when I started as a very eager teacher at the beginning of last year, I wanted to buy all the files, cover them so that they were ready, but I did not know what I was going to need. And one thing that I can advise you to do from the start is be open to the fact that you are going to learn things as you go along throughout the entire first year of your teaching and then for the rest of your teaching career. But I think I learned more last year than I had learned in my whole 4-year degree. And there's no way to know everything that you're going to need to know from the beginning. So I remember frantically going to my colleague and saying, which files am I going to need? And I kept trying to take photos and figure out what files I could prepare, but I didn't really get it right. So this is what I actually needed. With regards to the big ring binders, I needed 2 planning files. So I used one for term 1 and 2 and the other one for term 3 and 4, and then a resource file and a support file. Now, the planning files, if you would like to know what is going to go in there, that will be your CAPS documents and your ATPs for each subject. So within the file, I have a subject section for each subject that I teach. And you'll do your CAPS documents or your ATP for that subject. You'll also have your school timetable, your assessment timetable for the term, sometimes the school's policies, if they give it to you. And then you will have your daily planning and then also your assessments. So that is for each subject. And that is why you're going to need one for term 1 and 2 and another one for term 3 and 4, because it just gets too full by the end of term 2. Then for the resource file, I usually just put worksheets that I use for each subject in there. I try to limit the amount of worksheets just to save paper, but if I do ever use them, I keep it in that file because then I can use it for next year and just photocopy from those worksheets. And then my support file is one that I put extra resources in specifically used for support. So whether it is extra practice that the children need, I have created little maths booklets for them where they get a little bit each day that they need to work on to reinforce different concepts, or if it's a really easy Afrikaans reader that I've photocopied, things like that will go in there. And then also enrichment material for those who need extra stimulation. Any support worksheets and little booklets I keep in there, and I've already reused one of them this year, so it's definitely helpful to have that file. And then small ring binders, literally just those very small ones that you can keep on your desk. Those would be for any extra portfolios that you take on at the school. For me, I teach catechism, so I have a small ring binder for that, where I keep all my planning and extra worksheets. And then IQMS, which is something that I think might be falling away. But I have a small file to keep all my documentation for that. And then my bi-weekly planning. So when I do my planning, I plan for 2 weeks at a time, and then I print it out and keep it on my small ring binder file on my desk, which then gets transferred to the big ring binder at the end of every 2 weeks. Then I also have a flip file, which I also keep on my desk, which with extra class lists and it also serves as temporary storage for any letters, permission slips, which usually get transferred into the big file as well, but it's good to just have something there to keep everything neat and tidy. You are always going to need extra class lists, and often children will come to the class and say, can I please have a class list for this teacher? So it's good to have a good fat stack in a flip file on your desk. And then on that point, just so that you're prepared, you need to keep records of everything, and having a class list is a very easy way to do that. So textbook records of who's brought in money, who's brought returned letters, even who's handed in assessments and whose books have been marked. You're always going to need records, so fat stack of class lists is a really good idea. And I've included photos of my planning files or my big ring binder files so that you can see exactly how they look. Those are the 4 main ones in the shelf there, and I created little spinal inserts so you can see exactly which file they are and just grab it out the shelf. And then that's how my front cover looks. I've just blocked out the name of the school. And then a tip at the bottom, make the year changeable so that you can reuse the files. So this is something else that I didn't exactly consider when I covered my entire file in contact plastic. It was a brilliant idea in that it is very neat, and it's lovely to have the cover protected by the contact plastic. The only issue is it now forever says 2021. So if you're able to leave the year off being sealed within the contact plastic and somehow put it on the outside, that might be a good idea, because files are expensive and it's quite nice to reuse them. One thing that I did get right was I waited until I got married to put my married surname on there, so I didn't have to change that. But if you're able to make the year changeable in some way, then you can reuse it. Then the books that I use. So on the left hand side we have daily planning, and these are just hardcover books. I actually got books with less pages this year. Last year I got the very thick ones, and this year it's like a bit thinner because I didn't use all the pages. And my daily planning book is literally just writing down things for the week, checklists, reminders for myself, anything like that. Sometimes we'll get a calendar printed out for the term, so I'll stick it in there. We'll get a list maybe from the HOD of things that are due on what dates, so I'll stick that in there. It's just a book for everything, this and that, reminders for myself. It's not official, it doesn't get checked by anyone. And then daily recording is the same size book, it has lots of class lists stuck in it. So you could actually use a flip file instead of a book for daily recording. It's not really daily recording, it's actually just recording in general of marks. I also used it to record the temperatures when we were doing that, which we're not anymore. And so basically per term I stick in a class list for each subject, and whichever class I teach that subject, and then I record the marks on there. And as I say, it can be done in a flip file. I like doing it in a book because then it's stuck in and it's safe. You really don't want to lose that. Then I thought I would discuss the moderation process of assessments, because this is something that I did not know at all when I started. I had an idea of what moderation was, obviously learned that at university, but it's something that I had to learn as I went along, and it helps to know what to expect, because then you can keep it in mind when you're setting your assessments and when you are trying to work ahead so that you're prepared. So what happens is there's a pre-moderation form, and that is sent with the assessment and the memo or the rubric once you've created it for the first time. So on that form, your colleague will check that you have included various aspects into your assessment. Basic things like you've put the name of the subject on there, the name of the school, the total number of marks, there's a section for the date and for the children to write their names. Then they'll check that it's in line with CAPS and that you've attached the memo. and they'll also check that everything adds up correctly, and for any spelling mistakes or anything like that. And then there's also a section for them to give a comment, so they might suggest you add something else in or whatever it is, or take something out. And then that goes to a colleague in your grade, and after they've checked it, it then goes to the HOD. So your assessment gets checked quite thoroughly before you actually give it to the children. And you also need to be prepared to do that for your colleagues, so you need to check their assessments as well. And then after the assessment's been completed, so once they've checked it for the first time, you need to make any changes before you print it out for everyone. And then once the children have completed the assessment and you've marked all of them, that is when you complete a post-moderation form. So this is sent along with the bottom, middle and top achievers assessment and memo to your colleague first, and then to the HOD. And on this form, you fill in different information, like if there was anyone absent, and you write down the names of the children whose papers are being moderated, what they got, and things like that. And then your colleague will check it. They'll check that the marks add up correctly, and using the memo, they'll check that you've marked fairly and that you haven't made any mistakes yourself. And this is sent along with an analysis form, which is used to analyze the class results and improve assessments in future. So on this form, you actually fill in how many children got within the different code brackets. So you fill in 3 children got a 7, 6 children got a 6, 5 children got a 5, whatever it is. And that shows you how easy or difficult your assessment was. It actually tells you a lot of different information, like maybe you need to teach the subject a little bit better, or you need to spend more time on it, or less time because maybe it's too easy. So that analysis form really gives you a lot of information on the assessment and how it was received by the children. So that gets sent to your colleague, they check those papers, and then that gets sent to the HOD afterwards, and they also check. So it's not every single child's paper or that gets moderated, you only choose 3, and you try to choose 3 different ones each time so that it's fair, they're all getting a chance to be checked, and yeah. So that's all for the admin and filing. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to send me a message either via the comments or on Instagram. I am Educate on Instagram, and please subscribe to Forrester Tutoring, as I still have another video to post in the series. And once again, I'd just like to advise you to join the online teacher community. It's very helpful, and teachers are always willing to provide tips along the way as you go through your journey. And that brings us to the end. Thank you so much for watching, and please stay tuned for part 3, which will be coming soon.